Do you know what the CAGED system is, but feel lost when it comes to actually using it in real songs? You've probably heard countless YouTubers say CAGED is essential, but no one really shows you how the pros make it work, especially when songs move between major and minor chords. I'll be honest, I wasted years struggling with CAGED. I could memorize the shapes, but I had no idea how to connect them to actual music. But once I figured that out, everything changed. Now I've taught thousands of guitarists how to put CAGED into practice, at gigs, recording sessions, and in everyday playing. It's the single most useful skill that I lean on as a working guitarist. So in this video, I'm going to break the CAGED system down into something simple, practical, and usable. You'll see how to apply it in songs with both major and minor chords. And I'll even walk you through an easy, popular song that locks these shapes into your playing. I've also put together free diagrams and a backing track for you. The link's down in the description. Grab those and you can start practicing this today. All right, let's dive into the shapes and see how this works. So for this video, we're going to use the song Tennessee Whiskey by Chris Stapleton as a framework to see how to put the CAGED system into use in the real world. The song is a simple, slow 2-chord song, A major to B minor. This makes it a perfect vehicle for learning CAGED in the real world. So I think of there being 2 versions of the CAGED shapes. Most people are taught what I call the theoretical or visual CAGED shapes. These shapes take open chords and turn them into movable chords. The problem with these shapes is that many of them are very difficult fingerings that are nearly impossible to grab in the context of actually playing a song. So the shapes that I want to show you are what I call the practical CAGED shapes. So these shapes are what the pros distill the big shapes down into. They're simple, easy to play shapes that allow you to use CAGED in your playing every day. So first, let's look at the major CAGED shapes for the chord A major. We start with the open A chord, or the A shape of A. Next up is the G shape of A. So the theoretical G shape of A looks like this. And it's a real knuckle buster. So I have learned thousands of songs over the years, and I can't recall ever seeing anyone use this full chord shape in a song. It's useful to be able to visualize this shape, but you can let go of the challenge of actually playing this shape in a song. You don't need to play this shape. So this is what I call the practical G shape of A. And you've heard this one in songs like Listen to the Music or Wind Cries Mary. So notice that this shape has 3 notes in common with the A shape. So I think of these 2 shapes as a single connected shape with 2 slight variations. So next up is the E shape of A, and this is a bar chord that you probably know, and it is pretty practical. But the pros often simplify this shape to this, which kind of looks like the way you probably play an F chord. That F chord is really the practical E shape. And I often play this shape with just the D, G, and B strings. No bar. That makes it really easy and practical. So then if I look where my finger is on the D string here at the 7th fret, that is where the D shape is rooted. So I put my index finger on that note and I play the theoretical D shape. So this is another quite stretched out fingering. It's pretty difficult. The pros usually just play the D shape just like they do an open D chord, and they just don't play the D string. And then last up is the C shape. This one is another monkey grip. It's really tricky to land in a song. So most pros simplify the C shape into this. And this shape is a staple of many Rolling Stones tunes. So notice that this shape has two notes in common with the D shape. Now the fingers that I use to play those notes are different, so it might be a little hard to see at first. But there's really only one note different between these two shapes. And because of this, I also think of these two shapes as a single connected shape with two slight variations. So to summarize, here are all of the caged shapes of an A major chord. So I've got the A shape / G shape. I've got the E shape, or the smaller practical E shape. And then I have the D shape / C shape. And then the A shape / G shape would repeat 12 frets higher. So the theoretical or visual minor caged shapes are even trickier than the major ones. So learning the practical minor caged shapes is even more important. And just like for the major caged shapes, I really simplify this into three main shapes: an A minor shape, an E minor shape, and a D minor shape. So let's look at the chord B minor. So for this chord, I'm going to take the shapes that we just did for A major, move them up 2 frets to B, and then flatten the thirds to make those major caged shapes into minor caged shapes. So let's take our A chord and move it up 2 frets. Now this would be a B major chord, but if I flatten the third, this gives you B minor. It's a shape that you probably know, and this is the A minor shape of B minor. And this one's quite practical, but it can also be simplified into smaller shapes. So next up is the G minor shape, and that looks like this. And you can see this is very impractical and really not useful at all. So to me, this shape is pretty much theoretical. Now, the higher notes are a useful shape, but those notes are also contained in the next shape up, the E minor shape. And the lower part of the shape is generally too muddy to be of much use. So again, this shape is pretty much just a theoretical shape. So next up is the E minor shape. And if we take that E-shaped bar chord that we played for A and move it up 2 frets, this gives us a B major chord. And then if we flatten the third, we get the E minor shape of B minor. So this full shape is a pretty useful bar chord, but we can parse it into smaller shapes that can also be quite practical. And now we move on to the D minor shape. So again, we can take the D major shape that we played for A, move it up 2 frets, that makes it B, flatten the third, and that gives us the D minor shape of B minor. So this is connected to the C minor shape. This is a very useful shape that often gets overlooked. And you can see how I just took the practical C shape and flattened the third to make it into the C minor shape. And then I'm back to the A minor shape of B minor, 12 frets higher. So to summarize, our caged shapes for the B minor chord: we have the A minor shape, and then we're going to skip the G minor shape since it's not very practical or useful. And then we have the E minor shape, the D minor shape, and that's connected to the C minor shape. Now let's hear those shapes in action. First I have the A/G shape of A, then the A minor shape of B minor. And I can parse these into smaller fragments. Then I have the E shape of A. Again, I can parse it into smaller fragments. And the E minor shape of B minor. And then I get the D/C shape of A and the D minor/C minor shape of B minor. You can see how connected these shapes are. And then I start back over 12 frets higher. The A/G shape of A, the A minor shape of B minor. Now I'm going to move freely around the neck. Two-note fragments. I can use these same shapes to solo with. So now I'm gonna improvise a little bit using only chord tones, so only those shapes I was just playing. I'm not playing any scale notes at all. Play the scale and really kind of target those notes as the chords go by, and it will create really strong melodies. So CAGED is the key to learning how to play changes. So if you can see these CAGED shapes, you'll really be able to outline the chords as you're soloing. So you can see how simplifying the CAGED system into practical shapes will take the shapes from being theoretical into being actually useful. So getting good at locating these CAGED shapes is great not only for your rhythm guitar playing, but it's also the key to playing changes when you solo. Diagrams and a backing track for you. The link is down in the description. Grab those and start practicing this today. And when you're ready to take this to the next level, watch this video where I demonstrate how the pros use these simple cage shapes to craft epic guitar solos. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. It helps YouTube show this to more players. And I'll see you next week.